So I've already seen a guide pop up on my YouTube channel.
Alrighty. Hello,
About how to make your low-level computer.
So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's meeting. So welcome to the Black Students in Computer Science panel today. I know it might not be, Black History Month or February, but I think it's still important to, put a spotlight on this community all the time, as they're not just important during February, they're important all the time, right? So with that being stated, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's meeting. But before that, I'm going to make a few announcements. So if this is your first time attending ACM-W, you might be wondering what exactly it stands for. ACM-W stands for the Association for Computing Machinery Women's Chapter. This chapter was created to be the women's chapter of ACM in an effort to put a spotlight on one of the gender minority groups. However, we recognize that our name is not a requirement for entry, but as a focus on empowerment from where the creation of this chapter stemmed from. Our main focus surrounds on creating open opportunities for marginalized communities to gain experience, network, socialize, learn, and grow outside of the classroom in all fields of tech and computing. Our goal this year is to provide opportunities to women and minorities of UTSA regardless of their computer science background. Now, if this is your first time in ACM, I highly encourage y'all to go ahead and scan this QR code to become a member. A membership is absolutely free. We're sponsored by Google, Valero, Paycom, all amazing companies who want to see students just like you. So by signing up to become a member, you'll be eligible for free giveaways, free swag, and internship opportunities. There are no strings attached to this. But if you are already a member, go ahead and scan this QR code so we can keep track of your attendance that you have over here. And once you reach 9 attendance points, you get a nice little lovely t-shirt like this one. It's a nice t-shirt, I really like it. And you'll be invited to a special event that we will be having at the end of this year. So as y'all are scanning those QR codes and filling out that information, here are some of the events that are coming up. Tomorrow, we're going to have a How to Ace Your interview with Dr. O'Hara. I believe Dr. O'Hara has worked for Google. So, if you want to ace your interview, I highly encourage y'all to go to that meeting. It's tomorrow from 12 to 1 at the Harris Room. And then the Wednesday after spring break, March 23rd, we have Rowdy Hacks 101. So this is going to be an intro to Rowdy Hacks. What is a hackathon? What is this? Like, how do I get involved? More information on that in just a moment. It's going to be from 12 to 1. And then on March 29th, we will be having our Women in Tech Trivia. This will be from 4 to 5 p.m. The location is still being determined. So here's an opportunity for y'all. We are looking for junior officers. So what exactly is a junior officer? Junior officers are students just like you who shadow the officers to gain experience to expand a resume and create a community here at UTSA, right? So by becoming a junior officer, you'll help us organize events such as these and more that we will be having. And just as a heads up, we will be having officer elections opening up sometime this month or the next month. So I highly encourage y'all to become a junior officer. It might not be ACM-W, it could be ACM, ICPC, or something within ACM. There's a spot for everyone. And here's are some more opportunities. Here we have some internships, research, and hackathon opportunities for students like y'all. You can go ahead and scan this QR code to have access to all of this and more. I would like to give out a special shout out to the Grace Hopper Celebration that extended their scholarship deadline to March 30th. So Grace Hopper is the largest gathering of women in computer science. So if this is something that you're interested in, even if you're not in computer science, and I highly encourage y'all to attend this, as there are networking experiences that are invaluable, right? And then here's Rowdy Hacks once again. So what is Rowdy Hacks and what is it? So Rowdy Hacks is a 24-hour coding competition. No experience is required. It's going to be from March 26th to the 27th at the Student Union. So if you want to create a website, if you want to create a video game, if you want to create a piece of hardware, the options are limitless as long as they're legal and they don't hurt anyone, right? So go ahead and join this event. If you are new to programming, we'll have events and workshops that will be catered for students with no experience. But if you are a seasoned veteran, we will also be having workshops that are targeting students at a higher level. So we welcome students from all backgrounds. You don't have to be a CS major to join. As long as you are willing to learn new stuff, we'll welcome you with open arms. And there will be fun mini events like a Bob Ross night, and there's going to be fun prizes, free food, free swag, free giveaways. So I highly encourage y'all to sign up and make a team. Now, with that being stated, I'm going to go hand off the microphone to Priscilla. So if y'all can, please give a round of applause to these amazing panelists and hosts.
Okay, so as you said, my name is Priscilla Collier, and I'm the president of the Black Student Union and a current senior here at UTSA. Before I get started, I wanted to thank you guys so much for having me here, as well as having our panelists and putting on this amazing event. And with that being said, if you guys aren't already a member of ACW or ACM-W, sorry, or you start considering it, I think that you guys really should. Organizations like this at UTSA are so special, and I've been a part of UTSA long enough to realize that the ones that are niche as well as have a charter with a larger body are where you get those specific tailored and targeted opportunities, especially if it's directly related to your professional career. This is where you'll find those scholarships, where you'll find those internships, where you'll find those amazing opportunities, as well as connecting with people that you intend to work with in the future, not just networking vertically, but horizontally. So all of these people in this room ask them, pick their brains, even if they are your age. These are going to be our future STEM creators, like giving Steve Jobs. I just spoke to Anaya right now, and she really blew me away with what she had to say and how confident she was and how she carried herself. And so I really just can't stress enough that this should not be your last event with ACM-W, because they really have so much to offer, like, period. So yeah, without further ado, I did want to hop into the event and have our panelists introduce themselves. So with that, if we can get y'all's name, your major, and your classification, as well as your current / previous leadership with UTSA. And if you aren't a current student, if you can just, give us a little spiel about yourself as well. So I'm gonna start over here.
Hi, my name is Loki Innocent. I am a computer science major and I am a junior. Last summer I did the RA program as a data analysis researcher, and right now I'm a science mentor at the College of Science.
Hello, my name is Chris Holmes. I am a computer science major. It's my 4th year here, but technically I'm a junior. As far as things that I've done, last year I interned with Amazon with their cloud computing team. This summer I'm interning with American Express with their software engineering team. And I'm also a science mentor.
Yes, my name is Mufado. I am a senior major in actuarial science. I am the current president of the American Statistical Association, so Stats Club for short. I do a minor in statistics. I recently interned with USAA last summer as an actuarial analyst intern. I also serve as the executive director of the top scholarship organization on campus, among other kind of council on campus as well, but glad to be here.
Is it coming through?
Yes.
Okay. I am Dr. Stanley Deutscher II. I hold a PhD in computer engineering. I was granted by the University of Texas at Dallas in 2011. I am currently a professor of instruction here at UTSA. That means that that basically means that the research that I do on my own. My research is pretty esoteric. My research is actually in video game design. I'm not going to go any further than that. The main reason I was told they brought me here was to start a specialization in game design and development. Prior to being here, I have done both private industry as well as academia. I've taught at 2 other universities, and my most recent position in town here was doing machine learning research at the intersection of machine learning and cybersecurity for a research and development company here in town.
All right, thank you guys. Can y'all hear me? Okay, perfect. So y'all can handle it. I got a little nervous with the mic and maybe I was like shaking. So we're gonna start off with our first question. What was your first experience or exposure to computer science? And you guys can popcorn it around, however you want to answer that question.
Okay. My senior year of high school, I joined a cybersecurity class and I hated it. So I went to college and I was going to be a business major, but my dad was like, you can do business anytime, do something that'll make you money. And so, but that was his idea. And so I was like, okay, let me just do computer science. And then I've stuck with it ever since, so.
I was a psych major my sophomore year, and I kind of Googled the salary of psych majors without going to school for like a long time, and I didn't really like that, so I Googled the top paying like career in comp sci. So I YouTubed like a Python video, and I was like, I can do this the rest of my life. So yeah, I chose comp sci.
I got to take some like programming courses in high school. I know they had like some Java programming courses. So I liked that and kind of like figured out that those things were interesting to me, but my major, I guess I was more interested in math and statistics than I was computer science specifically. But in the math and statistics, we do a little bit of, when you talk about data analytics. And so I've gotten into programming in terms of just analyzing data, big data, things like that, using R, if you know what R programming is. And so that's where my interests lie in terms of computer science.
I'm going to preface this by saying I am old. My first exposure to computer science was through my father. My father was an electrical engineer for various companies, both public and private. And at one point he worked for Magnavox. That's how old I am, Magnavox. Okay, I'm guessing that most of you haven't even heard of this company. Magnavox got eaten by somebody that got eaten by somebody that got eaten. That's now Sony, I think. But back when my dad was working for Magnavox, which was the early to mid 80s, they sent him home with an Odyssey game console. And basically they were asking my dad to become a video game programmer. And he had no interest in it. And so he handed it to me as a 6-year-old, and I was looking at it, and I played this little baseball game and stuff I played on it, and there's a little thing called a programmer's cartridge. And Dad, what's this? Oh, that lets you tell the machine what to do. I'm 6 years old. I can tell something what to do? Cool. If my dad was alive, he'd say I programmed my first video game when I was 6 years old. Programming a Magnavox, didn't really understand why I didn't like the letters G through Z, but I kept with it. It's just been something that's basically been in me since I was a kid, and I've gotten to the doctoral level of it. Sarah's return.
That was question number one. Perfect.
Yes.
I feel like, and I really appreciated how you guys tied it to kind of like your parents. I feel like everybody, for the most part, except for the answer concerning finances. But I feel like that's also that's also instilled in like from a generational level of understanding. These are influences that we had prior to, and I think that also speaks to you guys' ability to create a legacy, just like y'all were touched by people who came before you. That's how you guys have now, and eventually will do so for your successes. And same to y'all as well. But with that being said, for our second question, what advice would you give someone who wants to try out computer science but is afraid of doing so?
One of the advices I'll give someone is, or the advices I've given is that you can do it. Like, I feel like anybody can do it. You just have to put your mind to it, because I started out not even knowing anything about computer science, and now we're about to graduate soon. So I just feel like as long as you, as it's cliche to say, but as long as you put your mind to it, you can just achieve it, I guess.
I would say there's kind of like a stigma where like you have to be like a genius to be a comp sci. You have to be really good at math. I am terrible at math. And I would definitely wouldn't say I'm like the smartest person in the world. I think it's just a whole bunch of like small pieces coming together to make something bigger. So as long as you can stick to it and study, you can do it. Anybody can do it.
I would echo the same points. I think the biggest thing to me that got me interested in programming was realizing that I don't necessarily need to be in class to learn it. And so like when I figured out that I could just Google stuff and like do my own projects, and that I was so interested in those, sometimes classes were harder than the stuff that I was doing. Like it was harder for me to understand the concepts versus, I'm just looking at some, let's say, data, and I'm going through it, I'm programming, and I kind of run into an issue and I look it up and I learn something, I do it I repeat that, and you learn that way. So I think if you're able to do that, and you figure out that you actually like doing that, then you can certainly do it.
So this has actually come up for me recently. And the first thing I always do with students and with young people is I ask them a question that I was asked when I was a senior or sophomore in high school. And before I say, okay, do computer science, my first question to you is, same question I was asked of me. If you could do anything at all and get paid for it, what would you do? And I would encourage you to think about that first. If you could do anything and get paid for it, what would you do? My answer in 10th grade was I play video games, and my counselor's reply to that was, if you're playing them, somebody's making them, so you go make them. And that's how I got put onto computer science as a concept. I didn't even understand that computer science was a concept until my high school counselor asked me that question. 95% of the answers that you give will put you in college. And as I've gone forward, I've learned about 25% to 33% of the answers you give will put you in computer science. Computer science is so ubiquitous that there aren't too many fields out there that are not touched by computers. So if you're looking at something that you love to do and you want to get, there is a way to put computer science into that so that you're not just doing it for the money, but and doing it for the money is not a bad reason, but if you're just doing things for the money, at least for me, what I found is I was miserable. My last job before I came here is still a programming job, still computer science development, still some kind of research. It was a 6-figure salary. I quit without having another job lined up. I'm not making 6 figures here, I promise you, because I'm new. I'm not making 6 figures yet. So the money isn't all there is to it. If you can find something that you love, chances are you can relate computer science to it. Or I can do it for you, and then you can go off and do what you want, what choices you want to make about that. So my first question is, what are you trying to do with your life? What do you want to do? And then go forward from there. By the way, if any of you do have that question, you can come to my office and I will discuss it with you. I will discuss this with you in a little bit more detail. It's just something that's specific and focused on you and your thoughts and your ideas and what you want to do. I'm happy to discuss it with you. Okay, I'm done talking.
So I think one thing that y'all really all got at were two things. Was that it starts internally, you know, just like we're our own biggest critics, we are our own biggest champions. Nobody's gonna sit in the classes for you, nobody's gonna do it. It's the fact that yes, we can, but it's having the work ethic and the wherewithal to stick through it and to actually do it. And there was something that Dr. Joyner actually got to that I really appreciated was this industry, especially in computer science, is always evolving. The job that you want to do may not even exist yet, but it is creating those fundamentals within yourself of being able to adapt and to have those transferable skills that I feel like we're all getting right now. With that being said, I wanted to pass.
One last comment. Just as an example of this, how many of you heard the phrase history repeats itself? That's a pretty common idiom in English. As a computer scientist, I can prove it. I can prove if history is repeating itself. The way you do that is using a concept, is using a subfield called natural language processing. We take a look at the history periods that we think might be repeating, and we look at the way language was used back then. And we put it into basically a dictionary. And then we look at the way language is currently used, and we put it in another dictionary, and we see if we can match them up. And if we can match up all of the language use, the frequent language use, there's a very high probability that history is repeating itself. There isn't a thing that you can, there is very little that you can tell me that I can put computer science into it. Just wanted to point that out. Oh, I can start next time?
Yeah.
No, I should go on.
I was going to use the microphone because I wanted to pass it over to our audience as well. If you guys had any questions for our panelists as of right now. Please don't be shy. This is your time. You have a question? Wait, sounds good. You want to wait on it? We don't have questions right now. Not a problem. Yeah, of course. Did you want the microphone? You got it.
I wanted to ask, so as a computer science student, a lot of the classes I feel the work is a bit rigorous. And so how do you go about, I guess, getting project experience outside of those classes and making time for things you actually want to do? Does that make sense? You're like getting like real experience rather than just like, you know, in the classroom. Sometimes that's not the best way people learn. I know I don't, you know.
I go on this website, it's called Udemy, and I have a subscription to it. It's like 20 bucks a month, and you can basically learn any programming language on there. So before I got my internship, I would go on there and I actually learned Unity, which is how you make games. And I made I think I made like a tic-tac-toe or something like that. And I put it on my resume, and I also made like a resume website using React and using JavaScript and HTML. So that actually got me that internship because they saw that I'd done something. So I would just go like outside sources and have fun with it. I'd personalize mine with like different characters from like Apex, which is a game, made it personal to me. But yeah, that's what I would say.
And I would say, like summertime might also be the time. Like sometimes I think I used to just spend like winter holiday after this fall semester, just take a course, a short course, and learn something, and then grind on that, and then maybe once the spring starts, classes start, you can just do it a little bit slower, but you're not doing as much. And then there's also just like free resources that you can get through UTSA. So I know there's LinkedIn Learning, there's a couple, not necessarily Udemy, but it's also Start if you don't want to pay subscription fees. And there's also like access to a lot of like textbooks like from O'Reilly, so you can access that through your UTSA account. So if you're more like, I can just scroll through a textbook and just look at examples and learn a bit from there, then apply it. That's also a way that you can do that. But a large part of it as well is just time management in general. So like if you know, based on how many courses you're taking, how much time it takes you, you might build in like a singular time, maybe in a week that you just do whatever project you want to do. And so just making sure you don't sacrifice that time for homework time. Sometimes it's tough. You're like, oh, yeah, it's free time. But doing that can help as well, given that you have a pretty extensive workload.
Well, mine isn't as like detailed as his, but I use Datacam right now. I'm learning SQL for what exactly I'm interested in doing, because I know it's really, for me personally, a lot of the classes I've taken so far aren't what I want to go into computer science for. And so like, I feel like if you're interested in something and you have like a little bit of time, you should just kind of go for it. Like right now I'm doing SQL, I'm also learning machine learning by the side. Even though majority of my classes are still software engineering. I just think, and Datacam is free. It's really free. And it has different languages that you can learn from and stuff. But yeah.
So your question sounded like there were two pieces to it. One was getting practical computer science experience, and one was not losing your blooming mind. So my personal non-computer science stuff, I play Dungeons and Dragons a lot. I play role-playing games and the like. I do script writing, and not so much anymore, but I used to be into fencing. So pick something. As far as expanding or going into practical regions, so the thing that I do in my classes is I try to make my projects practical in some way. And I know that doesn't necessarily help you in your situation right now. My suggestion to you, which is something that I do, something that I'm certain the people up here have done, something that a lot of students around you are doing, is you pick something and go, I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to make that. Understand that you may bite off more than you can chew. And if that's the case, it's okay to fail, back off and pick something smaller. But if you're looking for practical experience, the number one way to do that is basically like this gentleman said, pick something and do it. My recommended site that I normally recommend people go to if they're trying to learn or expand their skill set, there's a website called freecodecamp.org. They have an associated YouTube channel. Start there.
I'll have a notebook now because I feel like these are some notes. There's a great website that you guys should be taking notes of that.
And then for the next question that I have, it is, have you ever had a negative experience being a Black person, a Black student in STEM? How did you overcome this experience?
Well, personally, I haven't had a negative experience in computer science or like in STEM, but I'll just say I've had not a good experience. I don't say it's negative, but it's just not a great experience being a Black person in like a computer science class, like as a whole. Like when you walk in and you look around you and you see maybe one at least, or you just see nobody that's like you. It's kind of off-putting, especially for organizations. When you try to join an organization and you can't find someone to relate to, I'm sorry. It's a little weird. So I won't really say it's something to overcome on my part, but I don't know. The second one's kind of weird. I don't know how we would overcome it. I just think it's more of you focus on you yourself and what you want to achieve rather than your surroundings as a whole. That's how I would say.
I kind of echo that. It's not necessarily negative, just kind of uncomfortable at times. Yeah, I don't think you can really overcome that unless, well, this event is a great example of creating a community where you can see that representation. But yeah, I wouldn't say negative, just a little uncomfortable.
I've said I've had like just weird experiences with people, like certain professors not willing to kind of respect, like, so I've had professors that make assumptions or they'll make a joke about something, and it feels weird, and it's like, I don't want to bring it up. This is my professor. He's going to grade my work. I'm actually here to get help, so I can't really say anything right now. But yeah, like everyone else was saying, right? So representation also matters. So if I go to an organization and I don't see anyone that looks like me, I'm not likely to stay there. But one way that I try to kind of combat this and find ways to get help is just try to connect with people that are within my field that look like me, that sound like me, or people that I know have at least had a similar experience. So I think of like LinkedIn. So I used to just connect with people. Like, you don't even have to be in San Antonio, you just have to be a Black actuarial science actuary. And most of them understand this, they've been through this, and so they're much more willing to just respond to my message and say, hey, let's talk over the phone, and I'll look over your resume, here's this other resources you can use. And I found that quite helpful, and I've been able to build some pretty strong kind of connections with people that way. But again, it can be kind of off-putting, especially if you're on campus and a professor says something, not really sure what to say, or if you're trying to do an organization and you just don't see anyone you can relate to.
All right, so a statistic that I learned right as I was getting my PhD. Percentage of African Americans in computer science, or with a doctorate in a STEM field, literally works out to being 1 in 1 million. I am literally that. So, and then the other punchline, who go into academia, now I'm 1 in 2 million, and that's being nice. I didn't really feel a lot of, so my main confrontation issues, interestingly enough, I get it from both sides. I've gotten it from both people that are like me, that have the same heritage. I try to avoid the use of the word race. Biology tells me that race has a technical definition, and I am not non-human. So I use heritage instead of race. But I've gotten it from both sides, from people who are my same heritage and people who are not. When you tell people that you're in your classes with, that you're a computer science major, when you're in your humanities classes and your breadth classes and you tell them you're a comp sci major, how do the people that are supposedly your same heritage look at you? They look at you weird. I've had people be openly hostile. And these are supposed to be people that are having some of the same experiences that I'm experiencing. And these are people outside of computer science. Inside computer science, it's what some of these people have echoed. You're lucky if there's another person that looks like you in the room. Now, there are ways to overcome that. My way of overcoming it was be the boss. That's one way to overcome it. Just understand that you are going to be the only you in the room, and accept that and put it aside, and don't be too offensive, but don't take any crap either. That's how I pretty much survived undergraduate. My undergraduate, I should point out, is University of California, Riverside. I'm born and raised in California, in Southern California. I came here for graduate school. So I came to Texas for graduate school, and I've been trying to catch up to Johnny Cash. I've moved around a lot before I came back to San Antonio. I'm hoping to stay here. But I mean, my last position, you don't quit a six-figure salary if everything's peaches and cream, right? Most people wouldn't. So did I handle the issues that I was facing properly or overcome them? There are some that would say, yeah, I did because I got out of the situation, but there are others that would say I ran away. So no, I didn't really overcome anything. For myself, my feeling is, even though I'm making less, I feel I'm in a better place than where I was going through what I had to go through. And there's always going to be a place where you're going to encounter what I call the 3 Ds of hatred. Disrespect, disregard, disrespect, and dismiss. There's always going to be somebody. If you can ignore them, if you can't deal with it within proper means, but the thing that you need to not do is you need to not internalize that negative message and that negative comment, that negative commentary. Because speaking from a place of someone that did, it does not help you one iota.
Thank you, guys. I will say I'm a public health major, but I have friends who are biomedical engineering majors, and they've spoken to their experience of not only being the one or the two in the class, but your classmates don't work with you. It's like project that always seems to be like the Black people trying to find each other because they're ostracized in one aspect. And then another aspect is, even if you are the only one, I feel like there is almost a privilege of recognizing that you're there, right? You're there, you can earn this degree, you can have this career, but not just like you can also have that career, leave the door open for other people. You may be the first, you may be the only, but you should not allow yourself to be the last. So that means mentorship. That means reaching out to people who are like you, who may not even be like you, but may have another experience that is not highlighted or spotlighted. So in doing so, you reach out and you create those bridges so that this will never be somebody else's story again. Does that make sense? Cool. So with that being said, we'll go on to the next question. What is the greatest challenge you encountered as a Black student in STEM?
As a Black student in STEM, I think it's kind of the same thing as the first one. Just kind of finding a place that you belong, with people who you can relate to. I'm still looking, and I'm still searching to find one to show me. But that's my main challenge right now. And my main goal is to kind of create something for people who are kind of like me and they don't really know where to belong in computer science. So, yeah.
I would also say like community as well as low-key, and also like finding a professor or someone that looks like me that's teaching, so that I can ask them, as a black man, what did you go through, or what can I expect? So kind of finding like a mentor, like leadership in computer science.
I think for me, it's similar, as well as just kind of like kind of internalizing that the fact that I'm the only person that looks like this in this space, that means I have to, like, I know people have like stereotypes and connotations about what they already think I am. So now I have to like not just meet what the expectation is in that role, but to exceed that in order for people to actually see me in this space, right? And so this has happened, I think, in past experiences as well as like my last internship. It was like, oh, I actually have to be a little bit more than others because it's easier to see other people. But for me, it's harder for, I guess, for other people to see past the way I look, right? So there's already an assumption there. And so people always act so surprised as well after you're like, oh, I did you do that? Oh, yeah. And they start having those conversations. So my goal is always to do more than I, need to, but it's also a struggle because that should not be the thing, right? I should just be able to be like everyone else. But I think that's the biggest one for me.
So my mother used to tell me when I was a kid that as a black man, you're gonna have to work twice as hard to get half as much credit. And I haven't always lived up to that. And yes, I did get to the PhD. There's been a lot of bumps in the road along the way. My suggestion would be, especially to you three up here, and if you're experiencing this type of scenario, the thing that helped me the most the second time I went to school, because I'm a reentry student, I had to do it twice. Because the first time I was not a good student. The first time I went to college, I didn't know how to study, let alone do it. But my suggestion is you yourself have to be more outgoing. We're the ones that, it seems counterintuitive, and frankly, it seems a little bit unfair, but we're the ones that have to go to other people and be more friendly than we normally would, maybe. A lot of people that you see in computer science are introverts. We don't get that as an African American in this, you don't get that luxury of being an introvert. Because if you let other people decide what you're like, then that's going to become the narrative. So you need to become more outgoing, more friendly, more approachable, and more willing to approach others than other computer scientists normally would. I think that's probably the biggest thing to help me get over the hump. In undergraduate, I apologize for this, but I didn't have the same experiences that you had in undergraduate. In my undergraduate, I felt that I could get on any team that I wanted. People wanted me on their team because they knew I was a hard worker, and they knew I wasn't going to be too judgmental, and they knew that I was going to pick up the slack when somebody else was down. That's what you're going to have to do. Graduate school is a very different story. Interestingly, in graduate school, I had both classmates and professors make the claim that the only reason I was there was because of affirmative action. And the interesting part about computer science is, or the interesting part about graduate school as a whole is, most graduate schools don't have an affirmative action program. A lot of people don't realize that. You don't get looked at without the grades. You don't get looked at without a good GRE score, depending on the school. I think we've decided that we're not doing GRE anymore, right? Okay. But most places you don't even get looked at without a decent GPA. So And on top of it, in graduate school, there's so few computer scientists in graduate school, so few people going for grad school computer science, and there's more than enough money to go around. If you've got a 3.0 GPA, you can probably find a graduate school. But it was graduate school where I felt the most negativity. And when you feel that negativity, guess what? You've got to be even more outgoing than you were before. That's the only way to neutralize the feelings that my panelist friends here have expressed. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it for yourself. And you know what? It sucks. It sucks to be the most outgoing person because maybe you don't want to be outgoing that day. Maybe you just want to, hey, you know what? I am not in a good mood and I don't want to be happy. But you don't get that choice. You always got to be on. But it does get you to a point of being more included in other groups where other people are willing to look past your heritage. But unfortunately, it's on you to do that. That's the part that sucks the most. It's on me to dispel everybody else's magical spells they cast on themselves about what I'm like. But that's the cost of playing the game, so that's the way I do it.
Well said, guys. So for our next question, what can organizations such as ACM-W do to empower students of color and Black students in the field of computer science?
Something that y'all can do is like what you're doing right now, creating more events like this, targeted towards a specific group, or just reaching out to, I mean, if you can't create an event, reach out to those who can create an event. But maybe just reaching out because this is the first, not just doing like Black History Month, but like there's 12 months in a year, not just one, you know, just focus on reaching out. That's it. Just let that go.
I would say collabing with other like Black orgs, like NSB is a great one. They do, engineering, which and a lot of comp sci students go to that because there is no like Black comp sci org. But collaborating with other Black organizations like we're doing now too, that would help your outreach, not just outreaching in comp sci classes. Because again, there's not a lot of us in comp sci classes, and also you don't have to be a comp sci major to be a part of ACM. So anybody who just wants to know how to code can join. So I'd say that.
I'll echo the same. Definitely collab with other organizations on campus, as well as I know right across there's the Multicultural Student Center for Equity and Justice. They will promote whatever event you do that is catered to this community. So if you have something, or if you just want them to reach out to organizations that cater to students of color, you can also do that, and they're willing to send those messages out. So there's probably multiple avenues on campus that you can do that, but sometimes I think it's just that students just don't know. Like no one tells you that this organization exists. Then you might never join just because maybe you're not alright with them or anything like that. So reaching out to some of them, and they will repost, and people will repost. Social media is a great one as well. But events like this as well as just collaborating.
I think one thing that can be done in addition to what has been suggested already is going to where the people are that you're trying to attract. You can put announcements in general in the school paper or whatever, but basically using marketing techniques. Where is your target market? Go talk to them there. What does your target market read? Go put your advertisement there. And there are going to be people who are going to look at it and go, let's go look.
For our next question, what do you plan to do with your degrees / what are your career
So with my degree, I'm looking into machine learning and data analysis or being a technical program manager. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. I don't want to limit myself, but those are my main three that I'm looking for right now. Or I might go to graduate school, now that he's been talking about it. It's pretty interesting.
For me, I would say probably software engineering. I really fell in love with React over the summer when I was making that website. I thought it was really cool. So probably software engineering.
So I mentioned earlier that I interned at UTSA last summer, so I received a full-time offer to start in June. So I'll be working for
So there's on home.
The suggestion that I make, or that I want to make at this point, is given how few people of our heritage are here right now, you should have two goals for yourself. Not tomorrow necessarily, but you should have two goals for yourself in the end. Teach or hire. Those should be ultimately your goals. What have these people said? There aren't enough people that look like me. There's more than enough evidence in psychology and sociology that says that people go and congregate where there are people that are like them, whether it's heritage like us or a faith like us or whatever like us there is. People congregate where there are people that are like them. So since there's so few, we have to be the catalysts to make those congregation points. So either ultimately you should be teaching others your skill set in the end, which I would encourage you. PhD, go to grad school, become a university professor. It's really cool. Or put yourself in a position to hire other people. Put yourself in let me stop there. One of those two goals should be your end goal. It doesn't have to be when you graduate, but start thinking about it as you approach graduation is, okay, I have a goal of doing it this way so I can attract more people into the field. Because people come where they see people like them. Yeah, I think I've said enough. That's enough. I'll stop right there, period.
Good.
As a recent student pursuing my PhD, I'm going for, we don't have that much Hispanic representation in our faculty. It's growing, and it's the thing that we discussed in the department. So I've had more representation for more cultures, but that is a goal of mine, is to become a teacher and to be part of that movement. And I just want everybody here knows that a lot of people don't know the computer science department, all PhD students, it's completely paid for. Like, the school paid for, I get not a ton of money, but there's money like a stipend of living expenses. So don't necessarily let the money be a detractor. You can make some money a little bit while getting a PhD. If that's what
I usually mention that when people come to my office. I usually will tell people PhD study and graduate study, and well, especially doctoral study. Master's study in STEM isn't quite as well funded mainly because the field is so young that they actually need more PhDs, period, outright, no matter what the heritage. But graduate school, especially if you're going doctorate, that's paid for. When I was going for my doctorate at UT Dallas, they converted my tuition from out of state to in-state, because I told you I came from California. They converted me to in-state tuition, so they paid my tuition. They gave me $600 a semester as a book stipend, and then paid me $2,000 a month. I got paid to do my PhD. So, graduate study, and if your thought process when I said teach or hire, if the thing that triggered in your head was teach, pursuing a PhD and teaching at the collegiate level, pursuing a PhD generally doesn't cost you. Generally, they're paying you to show up.
So with that being said, I did want to say that I feel like we put a lot of pressure on our panelists, so you guys know that it's important to look back and all of these things, which is really important, and that cannot be understated in any way. With that being said, another piece of pressure is for whom much is given, much is required. So you guys are all such young, capable people. There's so much intelligence in this room, such bright futures ahead of y'all. So I think understanding that you also have a responsibility to give that back to other people is to be realized, but then also making sure that you take care of yourselves. Your mental health is a priority. You can't get these jobs and go to these PhD programs if you're dead, not to be crass. But it is important that you prioritize yourself, and it is important that you take care of the mind that you expect to achieve all these amazing accomplishments. So there are many ways to do that. Okay.
The motion to dispense.
I think so.
Yeah, motion. All right.
There are many ways to do that, but if I could just leave y'all with that, that would be something that I would say. With that being said, I did want to open up the floor to one or two questions for our panelists by the audience, if you guys have one. I need the mic.
So how do you guys go about to like finding your end goal? Because CS and everything, it's like a really wide and open like sort of field. So as someone who's just like starting, how would you find like sort of like your niche thing?
For me personally, it was doing stuff. So hands-on, like I'll use Amazon as an example. I thought I wanted to go into cloud computing, so I interned with them, and I didn't really like it. And then I tried software engineering, and I ended up liking it. So just by doing is how I really found my niche, and I still might not do something else along the line. So I mean, I haven't really got out there yet, but yeah, by doing, so I kind of found what I wanted to do.
As you said, just try everything. Like anything you think of, just do it. Like I got into data analysis. I didn't even sign up for it. I did, but like I didn't even know what it was. But I ended up loving it, and that's what I'm doing right now. It's just literally just try everything you can, and if you find it, you find it. If you don't, there's still more opportunities to find something. It's, as you said, it's a vast field.
Happy?
I'm actuarial science, and that's a very strict field, so I can't there's a very straight path to get to that, so I'll let them answer for that one.
So my answer is a little different, which is, I go back to what I said earlier, which is, ask yourself, if you do anything to get paid for it, what would you do? Computer science is so ubiquitous that I could probably tie computer science to something that you actually love and want to do. So staying true within yourself, that goes a long way towards what was just said about, personal mental health, because there are things that I've already said you're probably going to have to do that you're not going to like to do. Make yourself more outgoing than you normally would. But with regards to which way do you go and how do you navigate through this, consider what you like first, and then look at a way to make computer science a part of that. So for myself, my issue is that I have a very diverse life field with regards to computer science. There isn't too much about computer science I don't like. And when I went back to school, my initial thought was, get in, get out, go back to work, get your bachelor's degree, go back to work. Nobody can ever tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. Because one of the things that drove me back to school was I had an employer tell me I don't know what I'm talking about when it turns out that I did. And I got back in, and like 3 weeks later, I was like, you know, if you really want to say that you know what you're talking about, you're going to get a master's degree. Okay, go in, get a master's degree, get out. Nobody get a job. Nobody can ever say I don't know what I'm talking about. 3 more weeks. Well, you know, if you get a master's degree, you're going to have to write a thesis. I didn't know that there was a way to get a master's just by testing out at that point. But if you get a master's degree, you're going to have to write a thesis. If you're going to write a paper, it's really just another 1.5 years to get your PhD, and then you can be a university professor. And no one can tell you you don't know what you're talking about, because you really do. All right, I'm going to get a PhD and become a university professor. That's how I got to this point. I've always loved and enjoyed and been involved with video games and that desire. Virtual reality has always been something that's been work that I wanted to do. I remember back in the mid to late 80s when we used to have such a thing as a magazine rack. There were, on the magazine rack, there were anywhere between 4 and 8 magazines talking about virtual reality. How virtual reality is going to be the next big thing. And then it disappeared. And now it's back. So I'm going to go work on that a little bit. My dissertation topic was artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm design. So if you want to talk about machine learning, we can do that too. For me, computer science is the love itself. For me, not everybody is like me. And so I would say, again, what do you like? What is you? What are you about? And then if you ask me, I'm like, well, you can do this in computer science, but they're doing this type of research in computer science that focuses on that topic that you're telling me about, and go look for some resources. And this is ACM, so the first place you go is the digital library. That's my suggestion.
Awesome. And I think that is an excellent note to end this portion of the event, and I will pass it back over.
Alrighty, y'all. With that, we're going to conclude today's event. I just wanted to say, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experiences. I learned a lot today. Really appreciate it. So, can we please give them one last round of applause? Yeah. So, we will be sticking around for a few more moments. You're welcome to come to a panelist. I'm sure you didn't bite. So,
Before we go, just take a picture.
yeah, we can take a picture as well. So. Go with the picture.
Good job, bro.
Yeah.